Hey, what's up everybody? This is Glenn coming to you here with our breakdown for our NPBA Season 4 draft for our team, the Goodra Gang. So for those of you who are unfamiliar with NPBA, it's an awesome draft league community. We have 5 different skill-based divisions, one of which is actually our low-tier draft this season. So this is the first time we've ever done a full regular season of a specialty typing, so we're going to be doing low-tier this season. May look to expand it in the future, but we'll see what happens there. We also offer great speed and side tours as well, so always feel free to reach out to me if you want the Discord link. We'll be happy to hook you up there and get you started. Alright, so for this league, we are in the Johto division. So of the 5 competitiveness levels, this is kind of top 2, with Johto being the second highest overall. We are in a 16-team league. We have 115 points, 11 Pokemon per team, 1 Mega per squad, with no mandatory first turn Mega rule. And with that 115 and 11, we actually were lucky enough to get pick 3. So we are in a Nat Dex Legacy draft. Alright, first off, number 1 pick for us, number 3 overall, our Shifu Single, aka Tuxedo Mask. One of the most dominant physical sweepers in the history of Pokemon, especially in the draft league format. It's something that just consistently, it's kind of like that 4 moves of doom where you don't really know what that full set is going to look like, but you know it's going to hurt real bad. Wicked Blow is fantastic, always guaranteeing that crit. Credible's Dual Stab with that dark fighting typing, realistically it limits your opponent's options of what can kind of come in safely, with really almost one of the only guaranteed typings that want to see this thing is typically Fairies, but even then, it can run Iron Head, it can run Poison Jab, it has all the elemental punches it needs, also gets Stone Edge, which is fantastic to cover for a lot of those flying types it doesn't always want to deal with, and also it's rocking out with U-Turn more often than not, just to get that pivot ability out there. Outside of common, just attacking moves, it also gets things like Sucker Punch, which is great in case you need that priority. It can sub up, it could bulk up. Dealing with this thing when it's kind of set up is an absolute disaster. Dealing with it without setup is a disaster. Alright, so perfect complement for Urshifu is Tapu Fini. So Ursula is an awesome defensive wall, pretty solid special attacker. I know 95 at a base is a little underwhelming, but it gets things like Calm Mind, where it really helps with that setup potential. It's a Pokemon where it gets stored power as well as a fairy move, so it's one of those where even it can't be walled by a dark type a lot of the time, so you go into most matchups where it's a favorable setup opportunity. You're rocking out with things like Iron Defense, Calm Mind, stored power, and let's say either Moonblast or Draining Kiss, depending on the matchup. Really helps out to have that Misty Terrain sitting underneath you as well, where you can't be statused. But also, it's one of those Pokemon where your opponent, again, same way with Urshifu, has to prep for every single week, even in the weeks when you're not going to bring it. It removes very comfortably with Defog. It doesn't love to do that a lot of the time because you're also getting rid of that terrain, but if absolutely necessary, it can do that. It also gets Haze to help reset a lot of those boosts that your opponent might have against you, especially since it's one of the only Pokemon in the game that could probably eat some hits from a fully set up Pokemon, so really excited to have Fini back on the squad again this season. Alright, so Zeraora, Raiden, mixed attacker, Plasma Fist, pretty much inarguably the best physical offensive electric move, as well as one of the best electric moves overall. Speed tiering is really incredible here. At base 143, it has an opportunity to outspeed Dragapult, which, for a lot of Pokemon right now, that's not possible unless Scarfed, and then you're choice locked, and the whole 9. So really being able to outspeed that thing is an awesome opportunity there. Other benefits for this as well, being a mixed attacker, it can be fully physical, it can be special, it can be fully mixed in certain capacities on different weeks. It gets pivot ability with Volt Switch, and if it ever needs to swap out. It also can do great things like sub bulk up. It can hit you with a lot of really awesome coverage moves as well. It gets things like Blaze Kick, Knock Off, fighting coverage between close combat and Drain Punch as well. It's consistently going to be something that your opponent has to deal with on a week in, week out basis. Even when it has a bad matchup, it's usually a pretty good matchup. Gets things like Grass Knot, can rerun Adamant or Modest as well. Alright, so somehow, someway, round 4 came around, and Victini was still sitting there. And I was like, you know what? This wasn't an original thought. Didn't even think it would be here by this time. Gotta scoop it right now. So Victini, rocking out his Voltron this season. Mixed attacker, can hit you physically, can hit you specially. Gets a ridiculous move pool. Victory Star is an ability, also boosting those accuracy points right there. So helps out a lot in making sure that moves that typically miss at least have a chance to hit. And also it gets one of the most ridiculously broken moves in the game right now in V-Create. Absolutely catastrophic fire type move that even if you're resisting, you're really not resisting more often than not. So super excited to have Voltron on the team. Recently used it in a monotype league and absolutely fell in love with the sets. Super excited to potentially run it defensively as well. So with heavy duty boots being introduced, definitely boosted a lot of fire type defensive playability. And this is no exception here with Victini rocking out with those base 100s across the board. All right, next up, mascot himself, Slime Shady, Goodra, the boy. Especially defensive, absolute disaster. Even without an Assault Vest, it's still eating hits left and right. Strong pairing with our other walls. So you saw Finny already. It's damn near a perfect pairing. And it also works out really well with a lot of our other defensive walls, which you'll see a little bit later on. Love Goodra. It's definitely a slept-on Pokemon. I think it was in 10-point tier, somewhere in that ballpark this time around. Typically where I find it, and then it winds up moving up or down a little bit from there, but definitely criminally underrated. Can actually hit very well physically, offensively as well, so special move pool, most people already know things like Draco Meteor, Sledge Wave, Flamethrower, Ice Beam, Thunderbolt, Surf, Focus Blast, but even on the physical side, gets things like Power Whip and Earthquake, can really set up very nicely in the rain as well if Hydration is active there. Gets things like Acid Armor, or get Acid Armor Rest, and now you just pretty much can't kill it. It also gets 2 other killer abilities in Gooey and Sap Sipper. Sap Sipper rocking out to boost that attack and just eat those grass moves for free. Gooey to slow the team down. Mega Aggron. Shoulder pads. Total awesome get here. Super excited. Easily my favorite Mega. I thought my use of Mega Glade last time around was going to kind of sway me in that direction, but just something about this thing makes me keep coming back. Can actually ironically eat a full invested V-Crate from a Victini if, the EVs are on point. Really awesome Pokemon. Gets a ton of coverage moves as well. A lot of things that a lot of people don't know that it gets per se. I don't want to kind of give everything away, but gets some elemental punches, gets a lot of dark coverage as well, which is super nice. And it also it hits so hard when you need it to. Even without investment, it just has great range and viability and variability in its sets. Runs Stealth Rocks, you can Roar and Dragon Tail things out as well. Gets killer moves for it like Heavy Slam and Body Press. I've used it as a Toxic Staller in the past. There's been some Rest Sleep Talk sets in the past as well. Super excited to have shoulder pads back on the squad. It's very comfortably up there for me as far as favorite Megas, just because it does so much. It loves to eat hits, and you'll kind of see a recurring theme as the team goes along here, where we want that variability, we want hazards, we want a lot of things to be set up. All right, Electros, MGMT, Electric Feel, Electric Eel itself, out here levitating with mixed offensive stats, mixed defensive stats as well. Again, another criminally underrated Pokemon. Gets things like Knock Off, Giga Drain, I believe Gunk Shot as well. It can U-turn, it can Volt Switch, it can run 1,000,001 different item sets on it as well. One of the only Pokemon in the game that consistently has maintained, pretty much since its inception, to not have a weakness. Outside of a Mold Breaker matchup, of course. But again, just that move pool, being able to slap an Assault Vest on it very comfortably, use things like Drain Punch, Giga Drain to still get health back anyway. You think you're kind of in a good spot against it, and then it just flips right out of there, and it's able to set up again. It gets a lot of moves that a lot of people aren't necessarily using as often, but are good in the right situational matchup. Things like Aqua Tail, kind of just come immediately to mind. Love the Eel. Again, use it in a monotype draft very recently as well for one of our speed tours. And it was a great Pokemon. It really helped out a lot throughout the course of the season, and I hope to do so here again. Fortress, Peekaboom. Yes, I know, another Steel type. I'm the worst. I get it. But to be fair, it has a shared weakness of only Fire with Aggron, and we have plenty of Fire resist between Finny and Goodra, and working with Victini as well. So definitely not super concerned about that at all. Physically defensive, it's an absolute tank. Especially defensive leaves a little bit to be desired, but that is why it's as rated as low as it is in the tiers. Gets Rapid Spin, which is incredible right now. Especially incredible on this bad boy though, because it has the opportunity to set up every hazard in the game except for webs. My opponent has to deal with Stealth Rocks, Toxic Spikes, 3 layers of regular spikes on a consistent basis. I mean, we're talking about where I can all but guarantee they have to bring multiple removal against me. And that's something really great, because in the weeks when you bring that, still something they have to contest with, and then in the weeks that you don't, all of a sudden they brought all this prep and prepared for the defogs and the rapid spins on their own end, and we have no hazards to set up, and it's not even here. Super excited for the slow pivot Volt Switch as well. Alright, now time for the nightmare itself, Audino, Purple People Eater. Shout out to NDUL as well. Really great Ubers League if anyone is familiar. A lot of great international players and playability there as well. Audino actually stared down a Ho-Oh and won the battle in that matchup for one of our end of the season games there. Really fantastic Pokemon. A lot of the time it kind of gets looked at as like this discount rack, clearance rack, Blissey / Chansey. I actually prefer it over both of those mons solely because of Regenerator. Gets Wish, gets Heal Bell, does all the normal cleric things, but it can also stand there and click Toxic against you. Clicks Knockoff, gets rid of those items. It could do things like Stomping Tantrum or Flamethrower to overwall those Steel types that just want to come in and think they're kind of dealing with a Toxic set or nothing else. Very excited to get to use this again. Fantastic Regenerator option also, because you set up that Wish, you pivot out into the thing you want the Wish to be passed on to. You're still getting health back with Audino anyway. It's a great end of game tool as well. Alright, next up, Drifblim, Float On. So shout out to Bullet Puncher, the legend, NPBA mod / admin as well. Super excited to get to use this thing because it's something that was never really even on my radar, and then they were kind of just like, hey, Drifblim's still out there. And I was like, you know what, why not? Gets Strength Sap, which is a great addition that was just recently put on its plate. Gets all of the wonderful ghost expectations that you have there as well, things like Hex and Will-O-Wisp and Shadow Ball, but it also gets the defog. And its dual stab opportunities are really great because, kind of having that flying stab as well, something that really no other ghosts can really consistently bring to the table, and it's something that I think definitely is going to set it apart. We could also do things like, Misty Seed Unburden. We can do things like Aftermath to kind of guarantee a kill on a physical attacker at the end of the game. So, very excited to bring this thing on a pretty consistent basis. Also a defogger, so this is already our 3rd removal option. So, really thrilled to get to use this. Something I never thought I'd actually wind up drafting, but hopeful to see it rock out this season, and I think it's going to have a really great opportunity to do so. Last but not least, Bug-Eyed. The Masquerain, Sticky Web, Intimidate, Quiver Dance, solid special move pool, defog, all the things you could ever want out of your last pick for 1 point. Yeah, super excited about that. I think it's definitely going to be a great addition to the squad. A lot of the time at the end of the draft when you got that 1 point left over, you're kind of just adding anything in there to finish out your roster. So whenever you're able to do so for something that really actually adds an additional element to the team, it's a really fantastic opportunity. Glad to have it. Alright, y'all. So that wraps it up. That's our team for this season. Super excited to get to use all these Pokemon. Mostly some return players from last season, but definitely some really killer key late additions as well. Thrilled about where the team is looking to go this season. And we have a great Week 1 matchup, so we'll see what we can do. Let's hope to get that dub. Talk to y'all soon.